All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for the CACHET Virtual College Fair. For this session, you are going to be hearing from a representative from Rose-Hulman, and so we're very excited to hear that information. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. You have the ability to ask questions during this webinar by using the Q&A function, so please make sure that you get your questions answered. Our representative has already set aside some time at the end of the presentation to answer those, so make sure that you get those in. We do not see or hear you during this, so just please know that, and so be sure to utilize that Q&A function to communicate with us. There are additional sessions that have already happened, as well as those that will be happening on future dates with CACHET, and so you are welcome to sign up for those, as well as access recordings of this session and previous sessions by going to strivescan.com/CACHET, and that will be available within about a week or so. So that is all of the housekeeping items I have right now. I'll be back at the end, but at this point, I want to turn it over to Bobby Andrews with Rose-Hulman and let him take it over from here.
Thanks, James. All righty, so we'll share my screen so you can see the presentation, and ready to go now. Okay, so I hope everybody can see me okay. See my presentation here. I want to make sure that you're enjoying it. If anyone has any questions or issues, please just feel free to shoot me a message in the Q&A and I will try to respond. But why don't we get started? My name is Bobby Andrews. I'm the Senior Director for Enrollment Initiatives at Rose-Hulman Institute of Technology. We are located in Terre Haute, Indiana, so not too far away in the Midwest. We're kind of centrally located in Indiana, right on the Illinois border. The city of Terre Haute actually borders the state of Illinois. So we sit on the east side of it, so just right about an hour to downtown Indianapolis, and then about 2 hours over to St. Louis from where we are. We are a small residential STEM-focused school, so we have 18 majors, all engineering, science, technology related. We can minor in areas outside of the STEM fields, but only those majors in our STEM wheelhouse are available. So give you a little idea of who we are here as an institution. So we're just under 2,200 undergraduate students. We do have 10 master's degrees on campus. Of those, there's about 100 students in those. So it's very much still focused on the undergraduate experience. Those master's courses are something that are available for many of our undergraduate students to take as they move up in their major and get a little more advanced in their major or majors if they're a double major. So there's certainly opportunities to get graduate level work in before you leave campus. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the professor to student ratio is 13 to 1 or 1 to 13, depending upon how you look at the ratios, commonly referred to on the student to faculty. But all of our professors are full-time faculty members that are on our campus. We don't have an enclave of adjuncts or teachers assistants or graduate assistants teaching our classes. You have professionals and terminally degreed. 99% of them have their PhD. So you're getting people who are very well accomplished in their fields, who are very accomplished scholars, but are also entirely focused on your development, whether that be directly in the classroom through mentoring you and internships, to helping focus your research, depending upon your area of study, and making sure that you are performing graduate level research on an undergraduate basis so that you're competitive going into the working world or going off into graduate school, whether it be a master's, PhD, medical school, and so on. So it's a dynamic that is highly valued at our school. Our students love the ability that they have from the first day they step foot as freshmen to be able to work right there with their professors, to work on research right away, to be able to work on crafting what their undergraduate experience is going to look like. That's going to prepare them for life afterwards, and feel like they have some control early, and they have a mentor that's helping them facilitate to make sure that they're getting the best advantages early on. And I mean that like in the first few weeks as a freshman. So we'll kind of address some of this stuff as we move through and illustrate a little more for you. So these are just some of the programs and rankings, obviously some things that we're very proud of, but also things we think are important as you consider the multitude of schools out there. For 22 straight years, U.S. News and World Report has ranked us the #1 undergraduate engineering institution in the country. And that has come largely as a result of the experiences of our students, the success of our young graduates and our mid-career graduates, as well as the caliber of faculty who are teaching you and the experiences on campus. Along with that, we have 5 engineering majors in that same US News and World Report ranking that are #1. They're kind of the core of our academic unit. So it's mechanical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, chemical engineering, computer engineering, and biomedical engineering and computer science sit just outside of that #1 ranking as well. So and #2. So we've got some very strong programs, and clearly I just rattled off 7 programs of our 18 majors. So they're all really strong, and they're all well suited to exploration as a major or a minor for you. And like the kind of one of those numbers in the middle there, that 10, I already talked about the 10 graduate programs, all master's level that we have here. With our majors being specific to the STEM discipline, it doesn't mean that our students aren't taking courses outside of the STEM field. Both by design, as an institution, we want students to be able to get that well-rounded experience, but also to help fulfill requirements that are going to help make you better technical writers and make you better presenters, and kind of refine those skills in addition to the true academic expansion of your mind that comes from being in various HSSA programs, as we call the humanities, social sciences, and the arts. You'll find when you get a chance to speak to our current students and many of our alumni that those were some of the most impactful programs that helped shape their lives and help make them even enjoy their major and their skills in those disciplines. That help them appreciate that even more and help facilitate those and make them better as well. So there's 150 courses on a given academic year that will help satisfy. In theory, you'd only have to take 2 in a year. So you have a lot of flexibility, whether it be studying a foreign language, studying creative writing in English, or performing arts and music. There's a lot of opportunities in the HSSA to do things that you're already passionate about, or discover new things that are going to help broaden your horizons and give you some more, interesting conversations to have and passions that you might not know yet that exist below the surface. Since many of you, if not all of you, are still in your junior year or below at the high school level, we do offer a lot of summer programs. These 3 are kind of our primary ones, with Project Select and Operation Catapult being long-standing programs that we have here at Rose-Hulman that expose you to an awful lot of various disciplines and project work in the STEM fields that are done here on campus, where students come from all over the world to attend and come away with some amazing experiences, as well as credit from Rose-Hulman, academic credit. Creation Crates in the middle there is something that was created last year as the pandemic took hold and we realized we weren't going to be able to have students on campus for the summer. It turned into a pretty fun program that we were able to actually continue forward for this year, and it may continue in perpetuity, where a little more of a scaled down version of Project Select and Catapult. Creation Crates is really just what it sounds like. It's a crate full of gear that we send to you with a series of projects that you'll work on with professors that are going to Skype in or Microsoft Teams in with you and work on these projects with you that are pretty advanced work. And it's a really fun and now obviously convenient that you don't have to come to campus for that during the summertime, and it allows you to take part in it. So those are things that if you're interested, we'd love to have you take part in it. And we do have a lot of our students end up going through that program and wind up falling in love with Rose and the professors that are teaching it, which would be your regular professors as well as current students, where if you were to come to Rose in your freshman, sophomore, junior years, we hire student workers or student assistants to help during the summertime with this program. The professors do, and it's a great way to make some money, but also teach various engineering and science practices and disciplines to the budding scientists and engineers. Said I would reference a little more about how you can take part in our graduate work here. So Rose Squared is a program that for many years has existed informally here at Rose-Hulman. This year it has become a formal program that allows students since many of our prospective students come in with a pretty decent amount of AP college credits, IB credits, dual enrollment, and some other various ways of earning college credit, that It's not uncommon for our students to be advanced enough to be able to graduate pretty early, significantly early in some instances, but they don't necessarily want to. So the idea that many of our students have taken in conjunction with their faculty advisors is to take, a second major or double minors and or take some graduate level coursework. So this program is designed at this year in its maiden year of being a formal program to allow you to graduate in 4 years, I should say, with 2 degrees. So the bachelor's of your choosing, whether it be mechanical engineering, optical engineering, physics, math, bio, whatever it might be, but to be able to graduate, go through the curriculum in your normal 4-year time span, but also starting in your junior, in some instances, the end of your sophomore year, start taking some of the courses that'll satisfy your master's in engineering management, so that when you walk across the stage after 4 years at Rose-Hulman, you will have earned both a bachelor's degree in your discipline as well as a master's in engineering management. And we'll honor your scholarship across both programs, financial aid, and if you're on state or federal aid, we will actually offset that where you're not eligible to use that money for graduate studies. We'll make sure we have our financial aid to cover that for you. So it doesn't cost you anything additional other than your energy and efforts, obviously. And so that program, again, is in its first year. We'll see more of that as it grows. So for those of you that are juniors or below at this point, you might see more master's degrees potentially added to that. It might not be exclusively the engineering management program. It could be some of the others of the other 9 master's degrees that we have. Accelerate is kind of on the tail end of Rose Squared. We created this again to formally give you an opportunity if you wanted to earn some additional credits towards Rose Squared to give you a jump on that, or if you just wanted to take courses through Rose-Hulman before enrolling here, so that you can smooth out your schedule a little bit, give you a little more flexibility and freedom to add a double major if you wanted to, if you're not necessarily interested in going after the graduate program. The nice thing is if you do accelerate, you can apply that towards your general bachelor's degree. You don't have to do anything when it comes to Rose Squared, and you actually don't have to make a decision on Rose Squared until you get to the end of your freshman year. So it's not something that you have to know definitively right up front that you're planning to pursue, but it does give you a chance to be able to kind of consolidate those things in and make it a really impactful 4 years. I referenced our faculty before. It starts with you. The students are our primary focus and the pillar of what a Rose-Hulman education is. And the faculty are what helps you to achieve your goals and your dreams for your educational experience, but also for that 4-year experience of being in college and being able to have that true college experience. So I can't stress how wonderful it is for someone kind of from the outside, so to speak, to be able to watch our students and our faculty engage and see the just truly impactful relationship that comes from the very tight-knit community that we have here at Rose, and from the faculty's pure passion, love for helping you achieve your goals and your vision, and help you find that vision in some instances. We know that our students come in really talented, but they may not know exactly what they want to do, and the faculty tend to be their biggest cheerleader, but also their biggest mentor and tutor and advisor that are in things that have nothing necessarily to do academically. Obviously, the academics are part of it, but there's a lot of life and life coaching essentially that happens with the faculty here too, and we're really proud of that dynamic here on campus. Center for Global Engagement is, it could be very easily glossed over and say that's where study abroad occurs from, and it does. So, but they do an awful lot to bring global engagement to our campus, as well as bring you opportunities to leave campus and go experience the world outside of the United States. And it can be those traditional programs that you see at many colleges where you would go for a full semester. We're on a quarter system academically. So it makes the schedules change every 10 weeks. And so what we find is a lot of students, don't necessarily want to take advantage of that full 15 to 20 week experience internationally, but they'd rather find something that fits between their academic terms when they're getting ready to go do an internship, or go do a co-op or a research program for a summer potentially. And so the Center for Global Engagement does a really great job of tailoring the offerings and finding offerings that fit your schedule and what you're looking for out of your experience. So it could be a 9 to 10 day or 2-3 week trip abroad with some of our faculty members and fellow classmates. It can be, some of the short-term essentially exchange programs. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and they're always looking for new and creative ways to facilitate that. Again, because so many of our students are so passionate and engaged on campus that outside of internships, where they tend to leave and go all over the country, they don't want to really leave campus during the academic year to take time away from being in their lab here or being, with their classmates or teammates or club mates, depending upon what you're doing outside of the classroom as well. So our Center for Diversity and Inclusion, I think you're seeing this at probably every school you're looking at, is becoming more and more prevalent and something that's more and more talked about. I think what you'll quickly see on a visit to Rose-Hulman and then talking to any of our current students is it's something that's kind of woven into the ethos of who we are. You see the students in the picture here, they're sitting on giant beanbags playing video games. Those beanbags, unfortunately, are away for COVID right now. But it's a pretty common place for students to just hang out and decompress. So the center itself does a lot of internal programming, working with our various affinity groups and helping students in their organizations that help from their identities promote that across campus and to help themselves and the work they're doing within each of these groups, but also making it a place that is almost unassuming in that students find themselves kind of being in there, being a part of the center without even realizing it, and enjoying the free snacks at the Marathon snack station. Marathon Petroleum sponsors this really great snack station in there where students can go in whenever it's open and grab snack items. But again, I think it's one of those things that we can talk about continuously, but I think you being able to see that if you come to campus, we do have tours going on now. We are welcoming campus visitors, but as you work through this process, I think you'll find a lot of intentional and overt, but a lot of just really unassuming, casual, and really helpful programming that comes through the center that does a great amount of good for our campus and for our students and our alumni. Career services, I think you're probably more worried about it, and it seems like every year of my 20 years in higher ed becomes more and more of a concern is what am I going to do for a job? What am I going to do for an internship? I need to do multiple internships. I need to do co-ops. I need all of these items that you feel like you have to do. And I understand, we understand why, because everyone keeps telling you that you need to and you have to do it. And, we're very fortunate in that Rose-Hulman has always been kind of ahead of the curve when it comes to students being able to gain real world practical experience through internships and co-ops. And so it wasn't a big stretch for us to be able to make that something that starts really from day one during orientation when you meet with your personalized advisor and you start mapping out what your first year, what that freshman year looks like. Now, 30 days into your first year is the first fall career fair. And when employers come to campus, they're not coming to our campus to hand out, keychains and pens and cups. They're here to talk to students about doing an internship right away that summer after your freshman year, before your sophomore year begins. And so we're really, again, at our size that allows us to be a little more flexible, and our long history of success has made it so our students, even freshmen, are sought after by companies for internships. And the Career Services Office helps you map out how to go after those, great stepping stone internships that might be right up your alley in the first year or two, but map out what it looks like to go be a second time intern at Tesla or SpaceX and be in a position to have employment secure before you start your senior year. So there's an awful lot of intentionality through our Career Services Office in conjunction with your academic department and your academic advisor, who's a professor in your major or in your majors. So there's an awful lot that goes into that, and it's not left to chance. You're putting in so much hard work and bring so much to the table that our focus is to make sure that you have a very intentional plan that certainly will have detours and changes and multiple lanes and forks in that road, but you have people there to help you navigate those and to help foresee them in some instances, so you're prepared when that time arises. 99% of our internships are paid internships. You know, the lowest, earliest ones earning, you know, $15 to $19 an hour. We've got students making $50, $60 an hour as interns during their breaks. Got a couple students recently got $10,000 sign-on bonuses to do their internships, in addition to getting paid that, you know, $30 to $50 an hour range. So students are doing that for the experience and the employment that'll come from it. But it's a nice little payday while you're in school to either help pay for college itself or just help you start to put away a little nest egg for life after college. So this is just a little bit of a kind of a snapshot. It's an infographic kind of illustrating some of the factors that are some of the facets of that experiential learning and internship component. The 41% you see towards the top there is a number that continues to grow. I believe last year was about 33%. It was 25% the year before. Will continue to grow as you come in with a greater sense of urgency. It's really easy for the Institute to make those pivots with you and ensure that if you want to have those experiences, you're able to have them as early as you like and as early as are practical, obviously, to your experience or into your education. But again, it's just incredibly important to you. So we're making sure it's incredibly important to us in facilitating that for you. And talked about the career fairs coming to campus, the employers that come. They are truly coming here to recruit our students, not to just come promote their company. And the box on the bottom there with some of those companies is truly that. It's just some of those companies. To note that it's, you know, 312 companies came to campus last year to recruit. Most of that's done through the career fairs, but they also come back at other times outside of the career fairs or near to those career fair times to conduct interviews. You know, over 1,200 interviews. That's not your standard, you know, college career fair where you walk through a giant, you know, field house and pick up materials from places. This is legitimately employers coming to try and hire our students, whether it be for internships or for employment itself. Student clubs, activities and sports. Normally, if I was doing this presentation, you were on campus, you would be learning more and more about this from our current students. And so what I'll do is just talk a little bit about it. So you see like the rock climbing there, that was something that was kind of a novice that started years ago, that turned into pretty competitive club rock climbing now. We have a pretty large rock climbing wall on our campus at this point in our student recreation center that is used quite a bit for students, both for just pure exercise, but also as part of the rock climbing club. It runs the gamut from intramural sports, playing frisbee golf across the street on we have a huge swath of land across about 400 acres across the street from our campus it's part of our campus, but it's you know, really that's its primary use right now. It's a little bit of farmland. The civil engineering program uses it for the concrete lab in one of the barns over there. So there's a lot that goes on campus that isn't just athletics too. So that can be our competitive robotics teams, our autonomous vehicle competition teams, right on through to concrete canoe for civil engineering. You name it. There's, you know, over 100 different clubs and organizations, and that number continues to evolve as student interest evolves and as new things kind of pop up. You know, like most schools, I think we all do a pretty good job of trying to facilitate your interest in the club activities and the club sports and just general clubs. But here, we've got a pretty refined group of probably about 40 clubs that are really the largest contingent of student activity here on campus. And they, like I said, they range from frisbee golf and flag football to the robotics team on down to, you know, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, you name it. There's really a lot in the portfolio here for activities on campus for students to engage in. Let me just check here. Yep, I'm gonna go through a couple of these questions that you've already got on here. I won't type the answers out right now, but I will make sure I get to those questions. Thinking about, I already touched on some of these areas, but performing arts is a pretty big area for our students, just given how many of you have practiced musical instruments and have talents and skills from theater that you've done over the years that you don't quite want to give up, but you also don't want to commit all your time to. So there's opportunities to be able to do that. And the Hatfield Hall is just a beautiful performing arts facility here on campus. It's only a few years old, and rivals, if not better than many other schools that have, theater arts majors and music majors. It's a really wonderful facility that is entirely designed for our students in our performing arts clubs and the minors and the academic programs to be able to use and to be accessible, so that it's not something that a small group gets to use, but anybody that wants to be a part of it can do it, from novice to someone who's practiced something for 16 years of their lives. We are NCAA Division III. It's about 25%, 30% of our students on any given year are Division III athletes. It's really a great group of young people. We have far more academic All-Americans than we do national championships, and that's okay by us. We are very competitive athletically. Our student athletes are quite good, but they are focused on why they're here, and that is their academic pursuits. And the coaches do a great job of helping them strike that balance. And so it's really fun to be able to go support our various student athletes and the teams when they're competing. But it's also not something where there's athletes versus non-athletes. You many times won't even know who the student athletes are. They're just your classmate in your class, in your major. So we do have about 20%, 25%. Roughly of students that are part of our Greek houses, our Greek community on campus. So that's fraternities and sororities. We're coming up on 25 years of being co-ed. So, sororities are still in their early stages here. So they're national sororities and fraternities, but they are integrated really deeply into the fabric of Rose-Hulman and make it, again, similar to our student athletes. Sometimes you don't even know who your friends and classmates are, whether they're Greek or not, until they maybe take a sweatshirt off and you see their t-shirt with their letters on it. But they're very proud of it, and they're a really great group of young people that do a lot for our campus and the local community. As part of their Greek work and their Greek philanthropic work, but also just kind of the nature of who our young people are. So we'll talk now a little bit about the application process and the admissions process. Rocketry teams. We have some versions of that, including our autonomous and drone flying clubs. And there are a lot of aspects academically and in the BIC and the KIC, which are innovation centers on campus, which are really student maker spaces, where there are a lot of students that are doing things rocketry related, especially given the preponderance of students that go into aeronautical engineering through our mechanical engineering program here. So I'll take care of that one a little bit. And then thinking about the question on here about the diversity of our student body on campus. So like I just said, we became co-ed about 25 years ago. We were co-ed on the faculty long before that. We had female professors for many years before we became a co-ed campus. When it comes to the campus now, we're about 30% female. We are also about 20%, just under 20%, like 19% international. We also similarly about 24% domestic students of color, so coming from an underrepresented community on our in our country, on our campus here, and those numbers continue to increase pretty rapidly. This year, most diverse class we've ever seen as far as our applicants go, as well as female. We're almost 60% female at this point in the admitted student pool. So we'll see how that all kind of plays out over the course of the next month as students make their decisions. But I would imagine we're going to end up kind of continuing that trend of becoming a little more diverse, a little more gender balanced, as well as, really just representing a little more what it's like in our country, as opposed to being a microcosm of anything else. So before I get into the admission stuff, I'm going to kind of just go through some of this stuff here, some of the questions in the Q&A. So talking about Terre Haute, it's a small city. Now, I've worked in small rural communities for the last 5 years of my career, having grown up though in New York and having lived in pretty large metropolitan areas before moving here. It was a little bit of a shock being in a small town, but Terre Haute itself, where Rose-Hulman is, it's about 100,000 people. So it's not an insignificant number of people. It gives you a pretty good feel for a general community. It's got really a pretty diverse community. It's a pretty conservative area overall, being in the Midwest. But I wouldn't say if you you come to our campus and talk to our students, whether it's a student who's come to campus from California or Texas or Chicago, which isn't that far away, but might as well feel like an eternity away, or New York or Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland area, where we have a lot of students that come from. One, the Rose-Hulman community is where you're going to spend almost all of your time anyway. But broadly, Terre Haute also has Indiana State University in it, which is about 5 minutes from us, as well as St. Mary of the Woods. So there's a pretty good size group of students on campus or in the city. So about 20,000 students or more in the city itself. So it has a kind of a college feel in a revitalized city, Midwestern city. It had seen better days, but over the last 5 or 6 years, it's started to improve quite a bit. And it's a nice little city. Rose-Hulman in particular is a closed campus and sits in the suburb of the city itself. So it's a safe campus, a really friendly and welcoming campus to our current, our students will tell you that. And their experiences are most important, not whatever I could say that is more broadly speaking, but as a 18 to 22-year-old living on campus and going off campus to go out to dinner or go out with your friends, the campus provides the city provides a pretty good, I would say. It's certainly, it's not Washington, D.C., it's not LA, it's not a major metropolitan area, but it's a good city that has everything you can want, a great kind of burgeoning food scene as well. So we've got everything but a Target, which is really weird for the size of who we are. We've got, a mall and all these other things, but Target's your place. You can join me in driving down to Plainfield, which is about 45 minutes away. That's my adult humor for the night. And then, so I think we've got some of that. All right, so now we'll get into the admission stuff a little bit more, where I think it'll answer some of those questions for you. So our application deadline, we're on the Common App. We do have our own application. By all means, submit the Common application when we're going through. We don't have a preference, and more than 95% of our applications come via the Common App. So no need to make this process any harder for you than it is. And we know you're looking at a few schools at least. So by all means, submit that. Early action is usually a little more than 60% of our incoming class will come via the early action. Non-binding. We'll make sure our decisions are out to you usually about a week or so after Thanksgiving. Once everybody returns from that break, we'll get those decisions out. And with that comes our merit scholarship. So our sticker price is, kind of a scary looking thing to look at. It's about $72,000 a year. We give a very large contingent of merit scholarship to mitigate that cost to students and to reward the hard work that you've done over the course of your high school career. We also have financial aid as well as a number of other scholarship programs. So there's ways of mitigating a considerable amount of that cost. And then looking at some of our other deadlines here, we hold to the May 1st deadline, but regular decision, February 1st deadline for that. Again, we try to turn all these decisions out to you so one, whether you've been admitted or not, and then how much money you're going to have as far as financial aid and scholarships go, so you can make the best decision for yourself. But so you can also kind of navigate the handful of select additional scholarships that we have. So the Noblet Scholars Program is kind of like our honors program. We usually take about 55 students per year into that program. And scholarships for once you're accepted into that program range from $1,500 on up to full tuition fees, room and board. So pretty wide gamut there. And all of those awards go on top of or replace, if it's a full ride, the existing merit scholarships that you have. So we do an awful lot to make sure that students are able to afford a Rose-Hulman. Now with that, there is an investment to it, and our students are incredibly successful. A couple slides back there, we show the average starting salary is well over $70,000 per year. So we've been very fortunate to be able to balance the real constraints and pressures that you face as a student and families with what we're able to provide and having a strong return on your investment in the education at Rose-Hulman. The application itself, again, we're agnostic to the app itself. But what we're looking for on a transcript is someone who has challenged themselves as much as possible in the STEM fields, but has also been successful in non-STEM related, so your English courses and social studies, things like that. We want to see that you're a strong performing student that brings a lot to the table. Obviously, your passions for various STEM disciplines is incredibly important to us. And really, thinking about any like really close things you can key in on with our admissions committee. It's obviously mathematics, regardless of what discipline you're going into. You don't have to be strong enough to be a math major here, but you're going to have to take some pretty advanced calculus level. You're going to have to get to Calc 2, Calc 3 here for most of our majors. So we don't want students that are going to be able to get through that. We want students that are going to be able to thrive in that. It doesn't have to be your favorite subject. You don't have to enjoy it, but you have to be able to do it, because that's going to set up those foundational elements of success for you and make you be able to learn and apply those first principles of engineering. This year we're test score optional on the SAT. We will be next year for fall 2022 as well. We're looking for a letter of rec from a teacher or counselor. We ask if you're going to do a teacher to try and keep it in an area that's relative to STEM. So it doesn't have to, if you want to be a biomedical engineer, it doesn't have to be your bio professor or teacher, but someone in math, science, one of the sciences, someone that can attest to that STEM ability, in addition to your college counselor if they're preparing one for you, if you decide to do more than one. And then the application fee, there's a lot of our alumni send out application fee waivers, so be on the lookout as you move into that. And then academic requirements are right there. I've already talked quite a bit about this. The Noblet Scholars Program is that honors program, essentially, is what it kind of looks and feels like. And the whole intent of that program is really to give you additional advising and make sure Niles and Nancy Noblet, who Niles is the chair of our board of trustees and an alum from the Institute, he and his wife gave a pretty substantial gift. They've given many over the years, but a pretty substantial one for this program to ensure that students have whatever they need, whether it comes to research, additional research money to go do international research experiences or international internships, just to really fill in the cracks if there is any, which there really typically aren't, but to make sure students are getting every possible avenue they could ever need met when it comes to mentorship, tutelage in their disciplines. So that program, like I said, usually this year we invited about 750 students to apply for the program. You have to be invited to partake in it, of which we selected 156 to do the final round interviews. And when we selected 55 of them about 2 weeks ago for from an interview, a virtual interview from campus. And now we'll expect about 55 to show up for the fall. Grants and scholarships, similar. FAFSA is the biggest driver for financial aid when it comes to Rose-Hulman. And then merit scholarship is where the lion's share of resources are going to be met. So I'm going to go back in real quick just to look at the question. So GPA needed for Rose-Hulman, there's not a set requirement. I mean, our average right now is a 4.0 for this year's incoming class, and it tends to be in that 3.8 to 4.0 range. Realizing some of that is the weighted, but that's on a 4.0 scale. We try to break that down to that level. And then affordability. So we give a tremendous amount of scholarship and financial aid. We would like to, but we're not yet at a position where we can guarantee we're going to meet 100% of need if you're filing for financial aid. But we do. Last year, the average student was paying of a cost that's $72,000. Most students were paying about $22,000, $23,000 for tuition and then room and board. So all in about $40,000 before their federal or state aid kind of played into that. Just looking through the Q&A. So that, by all means, please ask more questions if you have them. And my contact info, like it is here on the screen, I'm happy to continue to answer questions for you. I know we only got another 6 or 7 minutes to go, and that's my direct phone number down there as well. So I'm happy to continue to answer any questions that you have in the Q&A. Average ACT score right now is about 32. Average math is a 34, and the average English component or non-STEM component subscores are about 30, 31. SAT is a 1440 right now out of 1600. And we take AP and IB credits, 4s and 5s on AP exams, 5, 6, and 7 on IB exams. So there's a couple different types of students that fit at Rose. The key facet is intellectual curiosity and a true passion and interest in STEM. It's what drives the everyday life on campus. It drives the clubs you're a part of. It drives your classmates and drives you from your classmates. And it helps fuel you. So we've got plenty of extroverted students. We've got plenty of students who they're going to find their social cues and their social skill set as they move through their time at Rose. But it's a group of people here collectively who value each other for our ability academically, our passions academically, and it varies. We've got the social butterfly who's charming and full of wit and can carry on a conversation with anybody. And we've got students who, goodness, they've loved this last year of being at school at home and not having to see other classmates and students, and literally everyone on the gamut in between. The commonality is this rabid curiosity to learn things, to fix things, to break things and rebuild things, to be scientists and mathematicians, and to just dig. There's not a topic or a challenge or problem that's too big. They love to solve problems individually and together, and it tends to feed itself, and it creates social bonds with people who have never yet had that social connection that they really have been fond of or have found to be rewarding. And then other students where, again, it's a continuation of great social skills and the diplomacy that comes with being student government president. And so I can't tell you that there's a type of student, but there's that commonality of kind of rabid intellectual curiosity and a respect for fellow classmates who have that same curiosity, maybe about different topics, but that same curiosity. We do care about demonstrated interest. Now, we also don't overemphasize it because we don't want to put you in a situation where you're feeling like you have to check boxes to get in or to get merit scholarship. So we try to reward you by the work that you've done at the high school level, both in and out of school, and don't put an over amount of weight on demonstrated interest. Now, if you're a borderline candidate, we certainly want to, we'll give an opportunity to somebody that we know is truly engaged and understands what it is to want to be a Rose student. But at the same time, we're also not going to make a decision that's going to put a student in a bad situation from a performance and success level here on campus, just because they've checked the 20 boxes that some places consider for demonstrated interest. So, we obviously love when students visit and students are engaged with us, but we don't reward it in a way that would put someone, unfortunately, in a situation where they gain entrance but aren't capable of doing the work. So your merits are going to speak for themselves, frankly. I've lulled you to sleep. I know it. I think that's about it. Our acceptance rate last year was about 57%. It'll be a little higher this year, just given the nature of students not being able to visit and students not being able to, take a SAT or ACT sometimes for the first time, but for the second or third time, and be able to do everything they'd like. We've, out of an abundance of caution, we'll probably be a little bit higher this year. We'll probably be in the low 60% rate, just because we wanted to be really certain that we didn't penalize students for some of the areas or some of the abilities that they would have normally had to take either the spring SAT or ACT or both, and or a fall sitting of the SAT or ACT, since that a lot of students feel like that's a pretty important part for us. So being test score optional, we've out of abundance of caution tried to make sure we gave, anytime there was a questionable someone on the fence, we've erred on the side of we're going to give them an opportunity to attend if they'd like. EA acceptance rate was this past year was about 80%. Like I said, it makes up a pretty sizable contingent of our class. So that's certainly a higher opportunity to be accepted in the EA pool. And most popular majors, mechanical engineering, number 1, computer science, number 2, computer engineering, number 3, electrical engineering, 4, civil engineering, 5, biomedical engineering, chemi, I don't know if I said chemi yet, kind of sitting at that 5, 6, 7 range, pretty much even down that route.
All right, fantastic. And that is all the time that we have for this session. I'm going to leave this screen up for just a little bit longer so that you students can copy Mr. Andrews' information down, and that way you can follow up with him if you have any more questions. So I'm assuming by now you've been able to take a screenshot of that. Just a few housekeeping items as we wrap up this evening. I just wanted to thank you all so much for your time and for asking some wonderful questions. As you exit the webinar, you are going to have access to a very brief survey. Please let us know just how your experience was with the webinar this evening. By completing that, that helps us plan for future events. There are additional sessions happening on future dates, as well as over the next hour, that you can sign up for. And also recordings will be made available at that same website, which is strivescan.com/cache. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and to our representative for being here. This has been a wealth of information. And again, we're so appreciative, students, of your time and bringing some questions forward as well. So we will go ahead and end the webinar. And so thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.